welcome back to another episode of the Divorce and Separation Coach podcast. This week, we're going to talk about finances and divorce, and in particular, the common missteps that people make in divorce settlements. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that actually the decisions you're making in the context of your divorce in relation to your finances are pretty much final. It's very hard to vary those later on. So you're making very important decisions, sometimes the most important financial decisions you're going to make in your life, at a time where you're very vulnerable, very uncertain, and sometimes don't have the right people around you to advise you. So it's really important to take the time to do that properly. So what I wanted to do today is to bring along an expert in financial planning to help you understand what those common pitfalls are and how to avoid them. So to do that, I've invited Hulya Gunay, and Hulya has over 15 years of international experience in wealth management and investment banking. And she's a leading independent financial advisor and a financial coach who's dedicated to empowering women to take control of their financial futures. Hulya has made it her mission to guide female business owners and professionals towards financial independence, especially those who have faced financial control or abuse in relationships. Welcome, Hulya. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Chloe, and thanks for the lovely introduction.
I'm looking forward to hearing all about the various things you've discovered through your experience working with people. As I was saying, the financial decisions that are being made are really important. And in a lot of cases, people are making them somewhat in the dark. So I guess we can dive right in. In your experience, if you had to choose the top, 3, 4, 5 mistakes that you've seen people make during divorce with regards to their financial decisions, what would those be?
That's a great question. I believe that preparation when one is thinking about divorce is key. And I see that people just jump to the process without knowing what to expect or knowing on where they stand, especially financially. So I think preparation is key. So that's the main thing. Yeah. And sometimes the divorce process, especially with the financial settlement, can be really overwhelming. As you know, there is a lot of disclosures, there is a lot of forms to be filled, and etc. This can be overwhelming if there is no preparation. Yeah. So I believe the first stage is to prepare, gather all the information as much as possible, even when you start thinking about, I need to do something about this. And the overwhelm also affects the decision making because the emotions are running high in divorce. Yeah. And I see from clients like agreeing to unfair settlements because they're drained, or as you mentioned, there's financial control and abuse involved in a lot of relationships. So abuse doesn't have to be like a physical abuse, and not make emotional decisions based on, also in a short-term point of view. People do take a short-term point of view. They think about, okay, what have we got? Let's split and then move on. And don't think about longer implications. I think I would always say, begin with an end in mind. And this applies to divorce, and this applies to many things in life. So definitely preparation, planning, and have some, end in mind. What is that? Your short-term goals, your post-divorce goals, and your goals for your children's future, etc. So I think these are the main issues that I see in my clients, and I personally have been through it myself as well.
And that fully resonates with me as well, both with my own personal experience and clients. And the point around thinking long term, I think, is really important because, as I was saying, it is a very big financial decision you're making, and the ripple effects will be felt for quite a while. And I think a lot of people are just focused on what they want now without looking at that bigger picture. And that's particularly where you come into play, with financial planning. So when would you recommend people reach out to a financial planner in divorce and start having those conversations?
To be honest, as soon as possible, I would say. I think that's when I mentioned about the preparation. A financial advisor can really help at that stage because, as I mentioned, especially if there's a financial control, financial abuse, or any sort of like emotional control and emotional abuse, one party deals with the finances, the other party maybe deals with looking after the children and making decisions about that. But a financial advisor can help with all these forms, the disclosures, gathering the value of the assets. There's usually a trust issue because obviously when people are going through divorce, there is a lot of concerns whether the other party is making the right disclosures. And if there is any concern, a financial advisor can help with that as well, because then that's the emotional side of it that gets involved, and the litigation takes longer, the cost is higher, the legal fees are higher. So a financial advisor can help at the preparation stage, which is the pre-divorce stage. A financial advisor can also assist the parties, if necessary to both parties, what a financially fair settlement would look like. And work with a lawyer hand in hand if it's necessary, or work with a divorce coach in your case. Establish the goals. Maybe they work with their divorce coach or mediator, and a financial advisor can help establishing the correct value of the asset and what a fair settlement would look like. And also coming back to post-settlement, then a financial advisor can help with executing various different orders when it comes to pensions, setting up the relevant accounts, setting up investments to make sure that after the divorce, the parties are still being looked after. So I think a financial advisor can help in each of these stages: preparation, pre-divorce, during the settlement, and post-divorce.
Agreed. I think that the review of an agreement before it's signed off with a financial advisor is going to be really key, because that's exactly where you're going to get that long-term view, and you're going to have a good picture of what your financial health looks like. Do you do cash flow analysis in that context as well?
I think cash flow analysis is very, very crucial going to the negotiation and the litigation process, because otherwise you're going in a way like blindly. Yes, you go 50-50, you go 60-40, you take pensions, I take the family home. It's all a bit up in the air. It doesn't give the necessary clarity for the party's financial future. So cash flow planning, where we have a look at various different options, because there's always options, and this is the negotiation part. And cash flow planning assists clients to get the clarity and the implications in a longer term, let's say in 10, 15 years' time, or in retirement. What would your financial future or your family's financial future would look like? So I think in divorce cases, cash flow forecasting is the key. And I believe that is key to equip yourself and empower yourself with a clear strategy. And it gives the clients the power in negotiations and litigation. Otherwise, it's all like you're going like a little bit blindly.
I agree.
All numbers are up in the air. So cash flow planning will give the clarity and empower
it makes it
parties.
very concrete, doesn't it? Because these conversations can feel a bit abstract, but once you start looking at the actual numbers and how much money you're going to have going forward, up until you're 99 or whatnot, that's when you're going to see how it translates in practice on the ground. The agreements you're looking at.
And it does give you power in negotiations, as you say. It's quite concrete, and it gives you the clarity. Once you go into the negotiations with that kind of tool, there's not much, the other party can, dispute in terms of if you're going to run out of money, if your earning capacity is diminished, or your retirement plans are shared, and etc. So you can put this across in negotiation stage, and it will help with the litigation.
I agree. It makes a very big difference, actually, when the other person is suggesting something that's just not viable. If you're able to show that cash flow analysis and listen, it's not. I'm not being difficult. You can see that with this arrangement, I'm running out of money when I'm, whatever, 65 or whatnot.
Yeah,
But it gives you that argument that's really irrefutable because it's numbers. It's not
absolutely.
subjective.
It happens all the time. Like there's unreasonable proposals from one
Yeah,
party, and sometimes, as I mentioned, like there is emotions, and my clients come to me and say, like, you know what, I'm going to accept this, and because I want to move on and etc. I'm like, hold on a second, let's have a look into that, because this
yeah,
is what happens if you accept that. Then it's also like a wake up call in a way, as you
yeah.
say, because it clarifies the situation.
I agree. And what I see a lot is that people, is in particular, sacrificing the long-term element. So with regards to retirement. So they'll
Yeah.
think about housing, they'll think about cash flow and day-to-day expenses, but their financial health in the long term is often overlooked, especially if they're younger and they think, oh, well, I'll deal with that later. But actually, it's a very important part of the settlement. And there, with compounding interest, it makes a very big difference what you get out of the pension.
No, that's a really important point. And it's like, I think Legal and General made a
Yeah,
research about, people getting financial advice and are also considering the pensions
yeah,
in financial settlement. I think only 13%, if I'm not
yeah,
wrong, only 13% considers the pensions when it comes to financial settlement and the division of assets, which is shocking. And
yeah,
23%, I think it was, again, a very low percentage, waives their right, especially women, to their
yeah,
partner, because there's an emotional attachment to the family
yeah,
home.
yeah,
But the value of pensions and value of a property are a very different assets to compare.
yeah,
And pensions, to be honest, can be really, really complex.
yeah.
And the valuation, usually legal terms, let's say cash equivalent transfer value of your pension is X, the value of my pensions are Y, and the pension sharing deals with 50-50. But as
Yeah.
you say, one party can be young and the other party can be older.
Yeah,
So what is the long-term implications at retirement? So these really require equalizing the right type of assets with
yeah,
each other, not comparing apples with pears in a way,
yeah,
and also not just equalizing the value, it's also the equalizing the income in retirement,
yes,
which will require more complex calculations. But again, this adds to the overwhelm.
hmm,
And then people just decide, okay, you take the pension, I'll keep the family home.
yeah,
Not necessarily correct in all the cases. It might be
yeah,
correct in some cases. And also, it's about a lack of guidance
yeah.
from the professionals.
But once again, it's about making, doing all your due diligence at that stage because it's
Yeah,
such a big financial decision and so hard to change later on that, you want to make sure you get it right. And even though you are overwhelmed and it feels like it's never going to get done and it's yet another step to go speak to a financial advisor, it's going to give you that peace of mind that the deal you're signing up to is viable.
exactly. So understanding the value of pensions is the main thing.
Yeah,
So getting the correct valuation and getting the right division of pensions, understanding the type of pensions, whether there's guarantees involved or there's final salary pensions, various different schemes like healthcare workers, doctors, dentists, or teachers, or public sector workers. They've got a
yeah,
different type of pension. So if you're working in the private sector, it's a different type of pension. But again, as I mentioned, this adds to the overwhelm. And sometimes it makes it easier for people to say that I want a family home. I can see it and touch it. Whereas, as you say, I can build my pension, but there is a very, very important consequences in the long term. And pensions usually are the biggest assets after the property,
they are
usually
indeed.
in financial settlement cases. So
Yeah,
definitely need to consider the pensions when it comes to financial settlement. Get the right advice, get the correct valuation, and
yeah.
then obviously then make the financial settlement orders, whatever is necessary when it concerns pension sharing or offsetting. We don't see much of attachment because it doesn't offer the clean break. But yeah, a financial advisor or your solicitor can help you with your
So overlooking pensions is definitely one of the big pitfalls. Is there anything with regards to budgeting for life after divorce that you see common mistakes reoccurring in that arena?
I see a lot. I think the expectations needs to be really, really well managed for what post-divorce life might look like. Because usually, divorce is emotional, but it's a very, very financial process. Like there is going to be financial implications because you have got one pot, and now you're dividing into two. And especially if one party becomes like a single household, especially if there's kids involved, the financial implications are huge. So it's very, very important to manage the expectations for what post-divorce life might look like. There is going to be compromises to be made for both parties in most cases, but especially for one party sometimes. As I say, especially if one party is a single income household and the assets are divided into two. You're not going to have the same lifestyle, more than likely. You either need to reduce your expenses, at least for a while, just to adapt, or you need to increase your income. There is no magic solution. And I think it's about managing the expectation with the divorce process. That's what I see. Your lifestyle is going to change. It's a hard pill to swallow. And also these expectations, sometimes unrealistic expectations, lengthens the litigation process.
It does.
That drains people emotionally. That also drains the funds. So it's not helpful in anyone's case. I believe the main thing is the unrealistic expectations, not having the flexibility to be able to make these decisions. Again, coming back to financial control and financial abuse, I've had clients who never dealt with utility companies, let's say. It's also about like educating yourself. And if that's too difficult, then get in touch with the right professionals who can help you, like financial advisors, accountants, tax advisors, if necessary, not just the legal advice. Of course, you need legal advice, but in my experience, the unrealistic expectations lengthens the process, damages the relationship further, and causes financial implications going forward. So it's better to swallow the hard pill, and then hopefully in the long term, everything balances itself out. That's what I believe.
And I think it makes the pill easier to swallow if you know that you have a plan and that you've explored what things look like going forward, rather than just cross your fingers and hope for the best and wait and see if you're going to crash.
Exactly. I mean, hope is not a strategy, to be honest. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I don't want to be grim. Obviously, we all go through divorce for some reason. There's always a correct reason, but financial implications shouldn't be overlooked. And I sometimes hear things like, oh, I looked after the children all the time, so I should get the home and I should get all the income. And not necessarily. The legal system doesn't work like that. And post-divorce implications, as we discussed, needs to be considered along with the current situation, and having the short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. And stick with it. But again, as I said, I don't want to paint a grim picture. The reasons why you're going through, exactly. The reasons why you're going through divorce, maybe you just want freedom or like peace of mind or whatever. Not everything is financial, of course, in life, but it's very, very important, of course. If you run out of money, that's a really, really serious issue. So manage the expectations, really.
Do you also help people with the tax implications of transferring assets? Because I think that's also very, very much overlooked. You might say, "Oh, you take this, I take that," but actually, there will be implications in splitting things or moving things from one person to the other. Is that something that you've seen happen a lot?
Oh, absolutely. And not getting the right financial advice and tax advice costs money. I've
Of
seen in
course.
some of my clients' cases. Now the legislation has changed. It gives people a little bit more time. Previously, it was the 1 year period where you
Yeah.
pay no capital gains tax when it's the transfer of assets between the spouses. Now it's been
Yeah.
extended to 3 years. It gives people a bit more space because the legal process takes a while. But
Yeah.
I did work with some of the clients. They didn't get the right tax advice, and they had to pay hundreds of thousands of pounds. It was a matter of transferring the business assets.
Okay.
They missed the time frame.
Yeah.
As financial advisors, we understand the tax implications of the transfers of assets. In some cases, we say that I think this is going to be the capital gains tax, for example, calculation, but sometimes we have to include a tax advisor as well to make sure that there is the right strategy.
Yeah.
But financial advisors can guide you appropriately. And if there is a specialist tax advisor that needs to be involved, for example, in a business valuation case, then we can also direct the clients appropriately if necessary. It's crucial. I mean, tax in the UK is very high, as you know. You're dividing assets, plus you're paying tax on it. So you just really have to make sure that you minimize the tax liability.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, minimizing it for sure. But even if you're not able to, and the agreement is still the right one for you, at least taking into account the tax liability in that balance of the assets, because it could very much shift the balance when you think you're splitting things evenly.
Oh, it does, especially in high net worth divorces. The tax implications can be massive.
Yeah. So that's, again, having that advice early on before you sign anything and agree to anything with your spouse. It's going to be key to making sure that agreement is solid. So it's not just about the immediate fairness of the agreement, it's also the sustainability of that agreement.
Yeah, and the tax implications, like if it's like an international divorce, then you need to really consider cross-border tax implications. That's usually when we need to involve specialists in different jurisdictions potentially, but there is time frames for all these transfers and various different tax situation to be looked into. As you say, even if I think there was a saying like the only thing that you can't avoid is a death and the taxes. There is sometimes not much you can do about paying the tax, but it's about making the informed decision, I guess.
Yeah, and making sure that it's taken into account.
Yeah, affecting the bottom line in the end, as you say.
Yeah. So again, I mean, it boils down to knowledge is power. The more information you have, the more thinking ahead, the more analysis you've put into it before making the decision, the more, the bigger peace of mind, I guess, you would have at the other end, but also the more comfortable you can be with that agreement.
Absolutely. I mean, as I say, it is an overwhelming process, to say the least. Not just understanding the legislation, the legal process, the financial process, the taxation, and etc. That's why I think having the right team and right professionals around you is very, very crucial.
I agree. A lot of very big decisions need to happen in a time where actually you're not at your best usually. So it's that combination of the two factors just makes it that much more painful.
Absolutely. And, the financial matters, we're all very emotional about money, right? Money is also a very emotional aspect of our life.
Of course, yeah.
So there's a lot of emotions involved, but our job is to make sure that the clients have got all the information in there when they're going through these negotiations, and hopefully make the informed decisions and not come with the surprises and end up with hundreds of thousands of tax bill to pay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, imagine you're finally done with your whole divorce. You think you can start moving on, and then there's that unexpected consequence that you hadn't foreseen. And again, it's about having your eyes wide open in what you're signing. So
Yeah.
what would be your 3 tips as a highly experienced financial advisor with people who are a little bit concerned about their financial settlement, and particularly concerned about their financial standing after divorce? What would be your top 3 tips to them?
I think, again, I'm going to go back to preparation, planning, and understanding your goals, your future goals. And I think the other tip that is overlooked in the financial settlement process is the long-term implications. We talked about the pensions. Yes, pensions and retirement planning is one of the longer-term planning aspects of financial settlement. But there's also, if there's children involved, I am a big advocate as a mother of 3 children that children's rights in financial settlement and going forward needs to be protected, like whether it's rewriting your wills, whether you work on your estate planning, because obviously, estate planning and making sure that the children are still in the picture, because after the divorce, one party can remarry, then there is another party to be a part of the bigger wealth that this family has accumulated. Yes, maybe this wealth is divided now, but with future, let's say, care home costs, or whether future remarriage, whether future divorces, I'm a big believer in putting these plans in place, whether it's with wills, whether it's with trusts, whether it's with appropriate protection policies like insurance policies. If one party is paying the settlement, if something happens to that party, then what happens to that? So I think this needs to be really clarified from a childcare arrangement point of view, and also parenting schedule, and from an estate planning point of view. I'm really, really big believer in, and this is really overlooked.
I agree.
But I'm a mother of 3 children. I think children can sometimes be the victim of the divorce for one way or another. Not necessarily divorce, but usually the conflict. But children's rights have to be prioritized in the long-term planning, not just retirement planning, but within the estate planning, and also protecting the maintenance payments.
I agree. That's a really good point, actually. We hadn't touched on that, but that's a very valid point around thinking about your children. And I think it's something that I see people think about, but it seems always as a bit of an afterthought. It's never the meat of the matter, where really it should be, because that's what you're trying to do, is ultimately to protect your family's future, and that includes the children.
Absolutely. I do remember having this conversation with my lawyer while we were going through divorce, which I'm not going to go to the personal details, but my lawyer actually said to me, because I was talking about, this money should be kept for children, for children's education. It needs to be ring-fenced if one party remarries or gets divorced, and etc. I remember my lawyer saying to me, "This is your divorce. This is not children's divorce."
Oh, interesting.
So that's how legal system. I'm not a lawyer. I might be wrong. Maybe my lawyer was wrong. I don't know. But it sounded to me so wrong. Yes, it is our divorce, but these are our children, and they're in a way innocent in this process, and someone needs to protect their rights.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. Thinking of how they would be protected, especially if one of the two ends up having more children, that also comes into the mix.
Exactly.
So thinking a step ahead, and it's true that when you have children in private education, or you're expecting them to go to university, all those fees are going to add up, and ring fencing money in a way that makes sense for both parents to contribute in a way that they agree to. That's going to be a really good way of safeguarding the children's future.
And also not leaving the grey areas within that, because I believe the childcare settlement and financial settlement goes hand in hand.
Agreed.
And in my experience with the childcare arrangements or the parenting schedule, I see within my clients, and also it was in my personal experience, lots of areas are left grey, like how you say about the education fees, private education, university costs, and future planning. So I think there is grey areas which causes further dispute down the line. So it's better to have a concrete plan protecting and safeguarding the children's financial future or education or their inheritance is very, very crucial.
Yeah, I agree. So I think that the key message that we're hearing really throughout this conversation is that even though there is a huge sense of overwhelm during divorce, and your knee-jerk reaction might be like, oh no, I don't want to speak to yet another professional, or I don't want to, dig into something that might bring out something I don't want to be seeing or hearing. Actually approaching it and opening your eyes on that topic is actually a really helpful way of making it less overwhelming, because then you know where you're going, you have a clear plan, and you know where you're making informed decisions, so you know that they're the right ones for you.
Yeah, definitely. And in my experience, I think getting this kind of right advice, whether it's from a financial advisor, whether it's from your accountant, mortgage broker, divorce coach, etc., it will, in the end, save you money. Yes, there are costs involved, but if it's going to help you to save this tax bill that you weren't aware of later down the line, or if it's going to save you your retirement plans and make sure that your financial future is protected, then it's still, in the long term, will worth it, in my opinion. And it's also worth it from a peace of mind point of view. And as you said, financial settlements are very difficult ones to challenge after you agree to that. We both know that. But so I think in the long term, it saves money, and it also saves time, and time is money.
Absolutely. Oh, brilliant. Well, we'll close on that lovely quote. Thank you so much, Hulya. Thanks so much for all your insights.
No, thank
it was a great chat.
And
I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, Chloe. It was a pleasure.